Hello and welcome to Box, where we unbox, review and demonstrate the latest tech. Today we have with us this Creality CR-Scan Lizard Kit 3D scanner. After quickly picking up interest with their successful Kickstarter campaign, Creality have somehow managed an impossible feat, creating an affordable 3D scanner that turns practically any object into a digital 3D model. The Lizard was built for the average user as it's largely automatic, scanning a whole variety of objects without the need for marking dots. What's more, it even works in a handheld mode, letting you convert your desired object directly into an editable 3D model no matter how big or small the project is. The Lizard is still extremely new tech, and only a handful of tech enthusiasts out there have had their hands on the device for a few months now, but from what I can see, the results are still somewhat hit and miss. But what was immediately apparent is that when the print is done right, with a bit of time and effort put in, the outcome can be just what everyone needs, delivering a quick, clean and workable 3D model. Already I'm seeing the potential here, with creators, designers, artists and engineers using the scanner to create models that are both creative and practical. I can see it working very well for recreating replacement parts for the tech I already have. As always, I'm no expert and will be using the scanner for the first time, working just off the instructions for help. But I'll be interested to see how easy it is to use on a base level with no prior experience. Hopefully it will give you a good idea on how accessible it is for the average user, and mostly clearing up any doubts surrounding the scanner, finding out both the complications and how to fix them, so when it comes to trying it out for yourself, you won't have to meet the same obstacles. It all fits into the convenient carry case for compact storage. Inside the case, you'll find all the connection and power cables required for connecting to a PC, along with the camera itself, a small tripod, and the turntable motor and platform. Also included is this small USB drive that houses all the information you'll need to set it up and use the scanner efficiently. Here you can see that Creality are fully aware of how new this tech is. The instructional videos included seem to jump to the gun by giving the answers to the most common problems that you'll likely face, removing a few of the more trivial barriers early on and translating some of the jargon with visual demonstrations so you can get on with what you want to make. Knowing how to set up the scanner correctly can be a little confusing, but luckily there's a big set of step-by-step instructions included just inside the case, with each step carefully explained and accompanied by picture examples. All it takes is plugging in the longer cable into the camera and then into the PC before attaching the correct power adapter and plugging it into the nearest outlet. The cable is long enough to place the camera about an arm's length away from the USB input, but I feel as it can be used both tabletop and handheld, it ideally needed to be longer. The turntable is powered using this micro USB cable, leaving the option to plug it directly into the PC for power or into the USB plug adapter depending on your setup. The software you need is provided on the USB drive and just takes a few minutes to install and set up. Now the software version provided here is the Creality Studio Lite and is the first iteration that comes as standard with the device. But as of July 2022, there is now a 2.0 version available to download from the Creality website. Originally, I tried to start the review with the new software, but was slightly misled by the warning that pops up stating that I'm already using the latest software. So naturally, I was stuck with the original version, thinking it was up to date. After a bit of research though, it turns out that if you just ignore the warning and continue with the installation, you can just download the new software and get straight into use. It's not too much of a setback though, as it just means that later on I can show you a quick comparison between new and old versions so you get a good idea on the progression here. When starting up the software, it will prompt you to install the calibration file. Now it should be something that comes with the USB drive, but for some reason it wasn't included on mine, and is often the case for a lot of other users too. There's no need to worry though, as it does install it through the internet if you don't have the file, but I found that it will only do this once the program is up and running and you have the camera connected. With every setback I encountered, I could solve it pretty quickly with the help of the Creality forums, and of course YouTube reviews. It is comforting to know that there's already a strong community behind this particular scanner despite it being so new. Now the camera itself comes with a little tripod that screws into the base. It sits on a ball joint connected to a telescopic arm that makes it easy to place it at the right height and angle for a full view of the turntable. Having the camera tethered to the wire though, it does restrict placement slightly, making it awkward to reposition at times, but on the tripod you're less likely to move it once you've found the perfect spot. The camera consists of 3 lenses that help scan objects with an accuracy of up to 0.05mm and a point distance between 0.1 and 0.2mm. Now the scanning process is strangely simple for something so delicate and precise. Now there are two SLAM modes to choose from, geometry and texture. The first is largely for smooth objects with little fine details, and the second is best for those more complex prints with a fine texture or pattern. Now I've heard that the best results come from having a high brightness and frame rate, so along with this and the geometry mode, I found these settings delivered the best results. Starting with something simple, the first scan was this small low poly totodile that I'd printed the other day using the Creality Ender 3 S1. It's quite smooth and angular as well as being completely black, which the scanner claims to be able to pick up quite well. In the geometric mode, I liked having the preview window to accompany the real-time camera feed window in the top right. It helps when placing the turntable in the right place, as well as knowing what the scanner can and can't see on the model. Knowing that the second stage of scanning involves initializing the surface of the turntable was incredibly helpful to know beforehand, because when it came to separating the table from the object, it automatically recognized the surface and highlighted it red for removal already. The first scan came out pretty well, getting quite a few of the details and a very clear shape on the whole. I used the scanner in a very well lit room and it was slightly over bright. In some instances the scan came out better with the additional studio lights turned off, but mostly I found the camera saw the object clearer when more light was introduced. It's easy to make amendments by using the last append step to rotate and rescan the object as many times as necessary to cover every inch. I found the angle of the scanner often missed the bottom or undersides of the object, and if it was especially tall, it often cut the top off the object altogether, but with enough light and plenty of scans I was able to get a pretty complete recreation. The part I struggled with the most was editing the model ready for final processing. The instructions aren't exactly clear on how to use the editing software, which was highly frustrating for a beginner with no sense of direction. It took a few attempts pressing various buttons, playing around with the selection tools and looking up key combinations so I could make the necessary edits that needed to be made. I used the scanner for a good 5 hours, and as a complete novice, I did manage to make some of the basic edits with little direction. Even simple tasks like just rotating the model, selecting different scans and aligning them correctly took a lot longer to grasp than needed be. But once I'd gotten the hang of the tools, the layout and what the colour coding meant, the process became much quicker. The auto aligning also worked exceptionally well in my experience. As long as I roughly got the pieces of various scans in line and facing the right way, it was accurate enough, which was a relief considering that I'm definitely not comfortable doing anything manually just yet. Again, there were so many tools at my disposal that I didn't dare touch at a beginner level, but to manage a clean print with all of the basic editing that I did apply, I was still impressed with what it could achieve. At this point I wanted to try out as many objects as I possibly could, so I knew for certain what the scanner could and couldn't read. I already knew from watching a few videos that it couldn't really cope very well with shiny objects, but I thought I'd try it just in case. As suspected, it picked up texture to an extent, but everything reflective like the surface of a Lego figure, the waxy surface of an apple, and the stickers on this Crash Bandicoot box came out as a whole in the scan. The software does have an excellent range of patching features like auto-filling holes and reducing noise during the processing stage, which is helpful for getting those fiddly, small areas on models that the camera couldn't physically reach. Of course, I found the small details and textures struggled to show using the geometric mode. The texture mode was a little hit and miss, often behaving like the geo mode, producing smoother surfaces than I would have liked. Now it uses an intense flashing white light to bring out these details, so it would highly affect the photosensitive user, but with the little time I used it for, I didn't see much difference between the two when looking at the outcomes here. Trying out the handheld feature, I faced some spectacular failures, but strangely, these are what intrigued me the most. One of the standout features for me is the ability to scan objects freehand. Just like the large face demonstrated in the promotional videos on the Creality site, I was excited to see that it read large objects and even entire body scans. Of course, my first test was trying to scan my own face, and to my surprise it turned out quite well. Again, the instructions here are pretty vague, and only by trial and error did I discover that the scanner needed to be held a certain way for it to work correctly. As it's handheld tech, it takes a very specific set of circumstances to work at its best. There's no use wildly moving it around the object and hoping that it picks something up. It requires slow, precise movements and a steady, fixed angle to get a definitive scan out of it. The website states that it's capable of scanning large objects between 500 and 1500 mm in size, such as furniture or sculptures. Again, I tried scanning a wide range of objects and the results were varied at most. First off, the length of the cable and being tethered to the PC was a little constricting, reducing the objects I could scan to something that was only as far away as the cable could reach. The camera couldn't see a shiny fan, for example, and trying to scan yourself was incredibly challenging considering that you need to hold it on the object in question long enough to read it immediately after setting it to scan. As much as I love the freedom of this scanning method, I did largely find it inconsistent, often losing sync mid-scan and struggling to recenter in time to continue exactly where it left off, often leaving me with these oddly grotesque looking creations. But overall though, if used in a controlled environment with a little help, the potential of what this could achieve is definitely worth trying out. After spending a lot of time with the original software, I was excited to get into the 2.0 version to see exactly how Creality has improved the overall interface and control. From the start, it looks so much more modern with that all black window design and updated icons. The overall interface seems reimagined and well thought through, but if you're accustomed to the old software, you may find this change just a little jarring. In all honesty, I wish I'd started my experience with this software. To say it makes a huge difference is an understatement. The layout seems simplified, and my eyes find the controls in a more natural way, and the addition of the helpful infographics and first-time pop-up instructions just made everything easier to get a hang of early on. Not only is the interface much better, the overall software handling and scan outcomes have drastically improved. I scanned this Xbox controller again, and this time around it managed to pick up even more detail like the Xbox logo and the joysticks. Previously the program struggled with maneuvering the scans around the space and aligning them, but this time around it performed the actions without hesitation and even showed me which controls to use to manipulate them into place. In general, I highly recommend switching to this software. It might still be new and may have some hidden bugs that I haven't quite encountered, but with the new interface and improved scanning capabilities, it just makes the scanner a much friendly device to manage. Overall, I found this scanner to be an interesting piece of new tech that's amazing to have access to in my own home. It's great for scanning small geometric items and even with some patience, whole body parts and faces. I feel the potential to create something impressive and detailed can be achieved by someone with a bit more experience and a lot of time and patience. The benefits of reproducing digital versions of practical objects in the home can be a game changer for some, and with it being relatively low cost for what it can do, it's worth it when you put the effort in. Releasing a new 2.0 software in such a short space of time emphasises Creality's mission to develop and improve software to match the scanner's potential. They clearly want to make a breakthrough here, and with the popularity of the Kickstarter project, they seem to be making good headway on delivering an affordable scanner that actually works. And using real feedback from users early on, the Lizard is on track to becoming one of the best affordable scanners on the market right now. Now it's still far from being the perfect tool, but for now it does well in some basic scans, and I feel it has some practical uses already. The tech is not quite there yet for scanning any object perfectly to utilise in a professional sense, but for what it can do, it's fun testing various objects and pushing it to the limits to get some decent outcomes, as well as finding some surprising practical uses for this new tech. So what are your thoughts on this Creality 3D scanner? Let us know in the comments below, and if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Box, where we have plenty of hands-on reviews on the latest tech. And as always, thanks for watching!